This is Good Evening San Diego.
Former President Donald Trump was in court in Washington, D.C. today trying to get some of the federal charges dismissed. His legal team argues that Trump should be immune from prosecution for his alleged efforts to overturn the election. But the judges seem skeptical concerning those immunity claims.
To authorize the prosecution of a president for his official acts would open a Pandora's box from which this nation may never recover.
I think it's paradoxical to say that his constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed allows him to violate criminal laws.
So here to discuss Trump's appeal and the immunity claims is criminal defense attorney Vikas Bajaj. Vic, good to see you, buddy.
Great to see you, Logan.
Thanks for coming by. A couple of different issues, it seems like, and some different hypotheticals.
Yes.
So just kind of break it down. The idea is that Trump is saying he was president at the time. Whatever he did as president should be immune from prosecution.
That's exactly right, with a caveat or one little hook there, which is there should be an impeachment, a successful impeachment, if there's going to be a potential for criminal charges raised against a current or former president. And there's a lot of weight to that. We have to understand when we talk about the separation of powers, and we heard the three-panel judge talk about that earlier today, we talk about the separation of powers, legislative, executive, judicial. But in reality, the real way the Constitution works is it allows the president to appoint the leaders in each one of those branches aside from the legislative branch. So the legislative branch is the only purely elected capacity in executive, meaning district attorneys, U.S. attorneys, FBI, CIA, all the governmental law enforcement agencies. And legislative, those are elected officials, right? Yeah. Judicial, you can somehow appoint and have control over it. So insisting on an impeachment, which would require 2/3 of the Senate vote, is something very important as a check and balance against arbitrary or vindictive prosecutions.
One of the justices kept challenging Trump's attorney with different hypotheticals, basically saying if Trump is immune from everything that happens while he's in office because he's the president, could he hire SEAL Team 6 to assassinate one of his rivals, trying to go up against him for the presidency? And they got into this back and forth because it's like, if you're going to allow him immunity for this, what about that?
Right, and that, I think, is exactly what strengthens the point here, Logan, of insisting on a check and balance. If you have the Senate that's required to listen to all of the evidence while a person is properly represented in a somewhat fact-finding scenario, then you have confidence that it's not a vindictive political opponent who is then trying to get somebody off the ballot or prevent them from having any force, effect, or influence after the presidency. There has to be a check and balance. The United States Supreme Court and most circuit courts have not resolved this issue. So this is a subject of primary impression. It's new. The Supreme Court will have to battle with it because, as we see now and as we've seen in the past decades ago, back and forth. There's a new sheriff in town. That means the old sheriff is now on the chopping block. We can't run the country that way. And we surely can't have a president protecting our country on the basis of a policy when that policy could change in November, for instance.
So you think it just goes to the Supreme Court? It seems like most people think it will.
Absolutely.
Is that the idea? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a case of first impression. It has to go, and it resolves conflicts that are facing every state in the union and every president that's living now and will be elected and living in the future. It's something that needs to be resolved definitively.
It also kind of buys Trump more time, right? I mean, part of this, where you keep challenging all of these rulings, is that maybe the election comes before there's any decision.
Well, that's exactly right. And I think that is a unforeseen or maybe a predicted benefit to the Trump defense team in these cases. That is not why the circuit panel had to listen to the case. It surely is a prerequisite that's required before the Supreme Court hears matters of first impression that are so important. But it's something that's built into the system. So please understand, and for all of our viewers and listeners to understand, Logan, this is not a surprise to anyone. anyone.
Yeah.
This timeline was predetermined at the time the charges were raised against President Trump.
All right, Attorney Vic Bajaj. Good to see you, Vic. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you, Logan.
Okay, Happy New Year to you as well.
Same to you.